So in this section, we're going to be dealing with the cosine function. So if you recall the sine function, it starts at 0 in the first quadrant. It goes all the way up to 1, returns to 0, and then goes to -1, and then returns to 0. The cosine function is almost exactly the same. Oops. So instead of starting at 0, it's going to start over here at 1. So it's going to start at 1. In the first quadrant, it's going to end up at 0. And then in the third quadrant, it's going to go to -1. And then it's going to return, sorry, then the third quadrant, it's going to return to 0. And then the fourth quadrant, it's going to return to 1. So a lot of people, this is your cosine function. A lot of people like to think of these two as the same, except this one is shifted over. If you shift this one over to the right, you would get the sine function. Same thing, if we shifted it over to the left, if we shifted this one over to the left, we would get the cosine function. So these two, you're actually going to solve all the problems almost exactly the same way. Okay, so here's the problem that we're going to go over for this section. I'm going to only do one, because like I said, it's similar to the sine function. So here we're going to look for period, range, and amplitude. So period, we're going to find the same way. Period, we're going to use the formula 2 pi over b. So in this case, our b, we're going to ignore the negative because that just makes it shift or flip on the y-axis. So we're just going to use, we got 1/4 as our coefficient here for our cycle. So this is the same as 2 pi over 1 times 4 over 1. We're going to keep changing flip from junior high school. This is going to give us a period of 8 pi. So there's your answer for A. So every 8 pi, it's going to have a period. Our range here, so usually it's domain and range that they're asking for. In this case, we're not asking for the domain because remember the cosine function in the x direction can go on forever, so that would be all real numbers. But the range is limited, so again, we're going to ignore the sign because that just means we're going to flip it. But the range is the same. It's going to go up to +3 and it's going to go down to -3. So usually the range you put smallest to biggest. So this goes from -3. In this case, our our range is our y value. And then we're going to go up to +3. And our amplitude is the number in front. Again, the negative we're going to ignore because that just means we flip it. So our amplitude here is 3. And that's how you're going to solve your homework for this section.